This week we're talking about short-term rentals and those corporate fat cats, so stay tuned. Welcome to another local market update with Rick Batista. Welcome to another weekly market update. Go Bears! Too soon? Sorry. This week we're going to be debunking a couple of myths that have been floating around in the real estate world, and hopefully we're going to learn a little something together. You know, with so many things going on with the economy right now, as well as in and around housing, I'm committed to bringing you both weekly and monthly market updates because once a month just doesn't cut it. And I've got to confess something. I do find myself scratching my head about this market, and I know what's going on. So if I'm confused here and there, I can only imagine how you must feel. My commitment is to help you understand what your options are and how to make sense of it all. Before we get started, I want to let you know that this video discusses both national and local data. The local data we'll share in just a bit is for Chicago proper, the 77 areas, and all that we do service all of Chicagoland, including the Burbs. Later in this video, we're only going to dive into the city's data. And away we go. Fun facts, market time. Single-family homes are shrinking as U.S. home builders respond to increased demand for smaller, more affordable homes. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, median single-family square floor area declined 2.9% to 2,191 square feet in the second quarter of 2023, the lowest reading since 2010. Single-family home size increased briefly during the COVID-19 pandemic, but has been decreasing steadily since the third quarter of 2022 as housing affordability conditions continue to impact buyer purchasing power. My 2 cents, I'm not sure if home builders are responding to an increased demand for smaller homes, but certainly more affordable homes. Whether people shop at Costco or Amazon, they need a place for all their stuff. The first myth we want to talk about today, will Airbnbs crash the housing market? Let's start off with a quote from Brenden, Rearick, a financial news writer over at Money. As long as Airbnb has been around, critics and affordable housing advocates have called for legislation that curtails the company's impact on the real estate market. Over the last year, those advocates have finally started getting their wish. Brenden, what the heck are you talking about? I'm going to share with you some excerpts from news articles that just came out this week. Who, What, Why, a nonprofit news organization, published an article on September 21st. On September 5th, New York City began enforcing its new law cracking down on Airbnb rentals. The law passed in January, but a legal challenge by Airbnb paused enforcement. The new rules require that for short-term rentals, the resident must register with the city and must remain in the unit the entire time. Renting is also limited to 2 residents, thus excluding larger families. According to this article, here are a couple of what I feel are rather legitimate points. Turning residentially zoned properties into full-time hotels, which is essentially Airbnb's business model, puts significant and often intense pressure on the whole urban housing market. City residents who were looking to live in such units can't afford them. Airbnb-affiliated entrepreneurs make more money renting places out as Airbnb hotels than they could make as landlords renting to local tenants. So for those on all the neighborhood pages and platforms who want to easily point the finger at one person or thing, those greedy landlords, the taxes are so high, that's why rents are up. Please stop your complaining without having a good sense of the overall picture. Rents have gone up for various reasons. I'll also add that the craziness of the sales market that took place over the last few years pushed highly qualified households back into the rental market. So people went from overbidding and losing out on purchasing a home to overbidding and winning on a rental, helping drive prices up. Did we all come out winners?
Survey says!
To my point, the article went on to say, the impact of Airbnb is, to be sure, not the whole story of the housing crisis. Other broader demographic forces, including soaring wealth inequality and gentrification, predated Airbnb's 2008 launch and continue to operate, but it is a significant piece of the puzzle, and it's one that is often missed. The article discusses how some other cities are dealing with these short-term rentals, some pushing for more restrictions and enforcement than others, but as usual, it always comes down to moolah. Who's getting a bigger slice of the pie, and more importantly, who's getting a bigger slice than me? Most importantly, who suffers? The general public. Households like yours and mine. While those in power are carving up a piece of the country for themselves and giving us just enough to entertain, aka distract us, you know, keeping our eye off the ball. Before it was pulling some stunt that we'd read about in the paper or watching a breaking news story. Now it's we scroll toward our own downfall and demise. To piggyback on the last article, Skiff touched on the impacts of short-term rentals in New York City. Listings for short-term rentals were down by 77% from June 4th of this year compared to September 10th's numbers. And the Kansas City Star published an article on September 14th discussing a rule which went into effect on June 15th requiring hosts to register their short-term rentals with the city and follow new rules like data reporting, adding safety measures, and paying a flat fee and a city tax on each unit. So you gotta pay to play. The article went on to say that common concerns from Kansas City residents included noise complaints from rowdy gatherings and increased ownership by out-of-state investors, profiting off tourist dollars rather than the permanent residents putting down roots in the community. Those certainly seem like legitimate concerns from the general public, right? How do you feel about all this? Do people just need to let others make a living, get their side hustle on, and just let people have a good time? Or should these investors of short-term rentals have to chip in like all the other mom and pop portfolios out there? What am I missing? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear it in the comments below. Anyway, read the articles. I'll put the links down below. They're quite interesting and gives a good perspective on this topic, no matter which side of your opinions fall on. We've touched on how short-term rentals have impacted the rental market and rental prices. How could they possibly impact the housing market and inventory? Well, if cities across the country continue to put pressure on you owners of short-term rentals, you're either going to have to pivot and pay to play, or consider converting to long-term rentals, which may not be as profitable of an investment as the short-term option. Jonah, Hanig, CEO of Rove, said this: "With nightly Airbnbs now illegal, stays in whole homes for fewer than 30 days, home rental options for 30 to 60-day stays may become more limited as many property owners convert their Airbnb listings to traditional long-term leases." On the flip side, our buddy Brenden is back saying, in 2016, the state of Arizona passed a law that bans all of its cities and towns from capping their number of short-term rentals. At the start of 2023, Phoenix had over 20,000 short-term rental units, and all that competition has led to many of them sitting empty for weeks at a time. So what have we learned since Tickle Me Elmo? When the masses run toward one market, the level of saturation leads to excess amounts, which leads to prices only going up, which typically leads to more regulation and hassles for everyone, especially the working class. Why are we not evolving into a more intelligent species? Have you ever heard of history repeats itself? It's just a different animal, people. To touch again on how short-term rentals may continue to impact the rental market, some current homeowners have to move because their lives and needs are changing. But they find it hard to walk away from their low mortgage rate and or the equity they're continuing to build, especially if they recently purchased their homes. So they're considering short-term and or long-term rental options, even if that means they move and buy or rent elsewhere. Realtor.com and Census Wide recently conducted a survey regarding short-term rentals, and survey says 59% would consider renting out their current house rather than sell if they were to buy or rent another home in the future. 20% said it would be great to have extra income from a renter. And 18% said the idea of owning a rental or investment property appeals to them. And 18% said the idea of owning a rental or investment property appealed to them. The second myth we're going to cover is Wall Street gobbling up all the homes in America. Now, in case you didn't hear, the creators of the Zestimate, Zillow, love them or hate them, lost hundreds of millions of dollars in their buying days during the pandemic because they were unable to precisely or accurately forecast changes in home prices. Oh, which reminds me, PSA, contact a realtor like yours truly if you want to determine how much your home is worth in today's market and or how much equity you're currently sitting on. Let me share with you slides from John Burns Consulting. This first slide here, we're looking at more potential sellers are deciding to rent. And there's a percentage of sellers who want to rent their home because of mortgage rates. Nationally, we're looking at 7%, Southern California, 11%, Southwest, 10%, Texas, 9%, Midwest, 7%, Florida, the Northeast, and Northern California, 6%, and the Southeast and Northwest coming in at 4%. And this next set of data is talking about total purchases by size of investor. This is covering U.S. national investor purchases through Q2 of 2023. iBuyers, although they did cause a problem and wreaked a little bit of havoc on the market, 3,070, so only takes a few bad apples, right? Those owning 1,000 properties or more, 1,959. Those owning more than 100 but less than 1,000, 4,692. And those owning 10 to just under 100 properties, 6,928. And those owning 1 to 9 properties, the mom and pop investors, people like you and me, 125,006. Far more than any of the other categories. And this last slide here from John Burns Consulting, the percentage of all sales by size of investor, percent of the U.S. investor purchase of total national sales through Q2 of 2023. 0.5% were iBuyers, 0.3, 1,000 properties and more. 0.7%, 100 to less than 1,000 properties, 10 to less than 100 properties, 2.7%, and the mamas and the papas coming in at 19.6%. Last thing we're going to cover before we talk about the city's numbers, Fortune magazine came out with an article September 18th talking about the softening rental market. You know, I've been in and around real estate for quite some time, and what we saw about 20 years ago was the condo craze happening, where investors were gobbling up apartment buildings, renovating, separating out utilities and PIN numbers to sell, sell, sell. What happened since then? Markets shifted, needs shifted, and investors began to gobble up apartment buildings and or condo properties that weren't being properly maintained and or were deconverting for whatever reasons. And what ended up happening? More rentals. Although the rental market is typically slow overall, come late summer into the hit or miss fall, and more often than not during the winter months, we're seeing challenges again. The spring and early summer markets are night and day from the fall and winter markets. We've gone from outbidding and overpaying on a rental to landlords having to seriously consider offering some sort of concession just to avoid a few months of vacancy, which for a small-time investor like the mamas and the papas can be detrimental to their finances, and for many to their livelihood. The same for a bigger investor with enough vacancies. So to my landlord clients out there, be prepared because winter may be coming, but we can work together to keep your investment going. Now it's time to wake up! For the moment you've been waiting for. This information and data is provided by the Chicago Association of Realtors, covering the week ending September 16th and is current as of September 25th. For fun facts, we go to quick facts. We're looking at year-over-year changes for new listings of residential properties across Chicago. Detached single-family homes down by 20.4%. Again, this is new listings. Attached being condos and townhomes down by 17.9%. Under contract, seeing this number up again in both categories. That's awesome. Detached up by 8.7%, while attached being up by 19.1%. And homes for sale, detached market 26.9% down year over year, while the attached down by 29.4%. Breaking those numbers down a little bit more, we finished up the week of September 16th with 340 new listings in the detached market, bringing us the 3-month average of 343, down by 23.2%, while the attached market 535 with a 3-month average of 499, down by 22%. And under contract, we wrapped up the week of September 16th with 188 detached single-family homes with a 3-month average of 176, down by 2.4% year over year. In the attached market, 274 with a 3-month average of 262, down by 5.5% year over year. And inventory of homes for sale, we wrapped up the week of September 16th with 2,308 single-family detached homes with a 3-month average of 2,310, with a difference of 23% less year over year. And the attached market, 3,045 with a 3-month average of 3,440 and less by 32.2%. So, what does all this information mean for you? Heck if I know. All depends on what's going on in your life and your household. Let's start a conversation and see how we can help you make the most informed decisions. If you'd like copies of any of the reports or slides we shared with you today, feel free to reach out. You can call, text, or email. My contact info is below. And remember, love and money may come and go, but time is something we never get back, so I thank and appreciate you for sharing some of your time with me today. If you want to stay on top of the market with us, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And think of one person you believe would benefit from this info. Then be sure to share it with them. As always, take care of yourselves and each other, and I'll catch you next time.